Hey y'all. So my dad asked me to create a basic security course for all of the family to have a basic understanding of some easy tips and tricks to make sure you don't get hacked. So basically the three big keys are always double check and work at your own pace. Use tools that make your life easy and ensure that you're locked down from the start. So the first video we're going to watch really quickly is on social engineering. That's when someone calls you, talks to you, and basically hacks you rather than your account. So they talk to you, become friends, and they're sometimes computer repairmen, bankers, doctors, fake bakers, and fake family members. The long and short, the TLDR of making sure you can solve this is just make sure you're able to cross-verify or double-check to ensure that the user you're talking to is actually the person you're supposed to be talking to. So if it's a computer repairman, make sure he's a qualified computer repairman. If it's your family, make sure you're actually talking to Susie or you're talking to Johnny. Don't just make the assumption that they're calling you, therefore they are who they say they are. Because it's very rarely the case it is. We're going to watch a quick video going over this.
Traditional hacking aims to compromise the security settings of IT systems and applications. Social engineering attackers attempt to exploit the users of these technologies by claiming to be employees, vendors, or support personnel to try to trick the workers. People are trusting and willing to help others, and the attackers use that to their advantage by deceiving users into revealing information that compromises data security. Traditional protection from malware and viruses will not protect you from a social engineering attack. Once they gather bits and pieces of the organization, they'll be able to put the puzzle together and exploit the business. One technique is phishing emails, which are typically the most successful form of social engineering. This is where hackers will send out emails to their victims in hopes of gaining sensitive information by tricking them into clicking a malicious link, giving the hacker access to information. Another technique is physical breaches. This is where the hacker does an impersonation of someone else in order to gain access to a secure location. Attackers can also use the technique of pretext calling. This is where an attacker makes up a scenario to obtain the information they need. Pretext calling often requires trust to be formed between the attacker and the victim. Don't be fooled by social engineering tactics. Be sure to train employees to follow safe security measures in the event of an attack. Employees should always be cautious when sharing personal information on social media platforms. Never open an email that looks suspicious or let a stranger connect to your wireless network. Don't give strangers personal information until you can verify where they are calling from. Review security policies to stay up to date with the latest social engineering techniques. Always use a paper shredder to properly dispose of your printed material. It is important to treat security awareness and training as an investment. For more information on social engineering, please visit us at greyvoc.com.
So as you can see there are a lot of ways you can basically mitigate some of the risk with social engineering. Con artists have existed since the beginning of time. At the end of the day, you're just trying not to get conned. And the output of that con might just be your password rather than money like how it used to be. But eventually, they'll just extract money from you throughout some other means. So the next portion we're going to go over is using tools to help improve your security footprint, personal security footprint. Tools are great because they help your life be easy. So no longer do you have to remember that crazy password that you have stuck ingrained in your brain. And no longer do you have to keep that notepad that you keep in your desk where you have passwords upon passwords crossed out with the new password that you recently replaced, eventually only just getting old and dormant. There are a lot of online tools, and your iPhone actually has it built into it. It's called a password manager, and we're going to go over a really quick video to show you how exactly you can go see the passwords in your password manager and add and update those passwords in your manager. The question always is, if I put it in one centralized location like my password manager, what's the probability it gets hacked? And it's much lower, surprisingly, than memorizing your passwords and saving them on a notepad. And the reason that is because oftentimes when you have passwords that you can memorize. They're not very strong, and you actually end up reusing weak passwords in a lot of locations. You want to basically use a password manager so you can have high password complexity without having to remember or ever even enter them into your computer or phone.
On the Mac, you've always had access to a keychain utility where you can go in and edit and view your passwords at any time. But on an iPhone and iPad, this hasn't been possible up until now. Your passwords are still auto-filled through iCloud Keychain, but you need to edit them and view them on device. Now, if you jump into Settings and then scroll down to Passwords, when you authenticate with Face or Touch ID, you'll then see a list of all of your accounts on your device. As you can see, I've got hundreds, and I really need to go through and sort mine out, so it's a good reminder there for me. But if I go onto one of these, I can then edit my password, I can view it if I'm not sure what it was, and I can change the URLs that it will automatically fill when I go into Safari. Of course, you can search by password as well, so you can search for a particular website or app, and all of the passwords linked to that account will show up. One of the really good features is that you can even change your password from within the Settings app. So on the Apple website, I might want to change my Apple ID password, and I can do that simply by tapping the button that says Change Password on Website. This is particularly important, especially if you use a similar password for different websites, or if one of your accounts has been breached in some way. In fact, on that password screen at the very top, it'll give you some security tips to improve your password security. For me, again, I haven't been through my passwords in years and years, and it desperately needs doing. I can see what websites have had attacks or been breached, and I can see which passwords I've reused. If you found this tip helpful, or if you've learned...
And going on from using tools to make your login experience easier, I wanted to show you a really quick view as to what it looks like when I attempt to log into a certain website. Let's just say I want to look at my Mint account, which is what I use to track my finances. So I go to Mint directly, and I click Sign In. So you can see here that I actually have it already pre-logged in. However, if I want to, if I use a different user ID, you can see here my user email already pre-populates. And then my password also pre-populates because I use the Google Chrome Password Manager. And so it makes it very easy for me to go click Continue, and then I don't have to think about my password. My password is very long, and it's a bunch of random numbers. So very strong, and I don't have to think about it because it auto puts into the form. And you can see here that now it's requesting 2FA. This is really important for all of your very privileged and sensitive accounts to use your cell phone or email to basically ensure that you have some secondary authentication form to make sure that whoever's making this request also has your phone or access to your phone. And this is pretty critical to have on all of your bank accounts, because at the end of the day, you don't want anyone to somehow get access to your password and then go log in. Another great part about password managers is you can actually share your passwords with friends and family. This is really important because you don't know what will happen to you tomorrow. You might get hit by a bus, and your family members might be locked out of their bank, like your bank, your shared bank. And at that point, you're putting a lot of risk on your head. What you should do is use a password manager, share your passwords amongst your broader family, close family, and that reduces the risk that, let's just say, you get hit by a bus and your family now cannot pay their bills or pay the bills. Just as a recommendation, there are a lot of password manager solutions out there, but everyone has one built into their iPhone, so might as well use that one. And the last portion I'm going to address here is locking your credit. Your credit is used to typically open new bank accounts and lines of debt. It's really important that you make sure that no one can get access to your lines of credit, or create lines of credit falsely under your name, because then you'll have to eventually pay for it or find some way to mitigate and get out of that situation. There are 3 credit firms that are heavily used, which are Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Each service has their own specified way to basically suspend or freeze your credit. And what this means is no one, including you, can create new credit cards or take out loans until you unfreeze your credit. And this is really important because sometimes when you, let's just say, want to open up a new credit card, you have to go unfreeze it for a specified time, and then it will auto freeze back. And that basically ensures that you have a much lower risk of having identity theft, to almost an impossible task for hackers to steal your identity. So we're going to go over here and then watch this quick video.
For an identity thief to steal your identity, which means you could be on the hook for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars that they took out of your name. The good news is that there's an easy and free tool available to all of us to help prevent that from happening, and it's called a credit freeze. Hey everyone, I'm Bradford, the Penny Pincher Guide of Personal Finance. The credit freeze is a tool available to all of us, required by federal law to be available, and it's something that a lot of people aren't familiar with. What a credit freeze is, it basically locks down your various credit reports at the big three credit unions, which are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And when your account is frozen, if somebody goes to open up an account, a loan in your name, when the lender goes to check your credit report to see if you meet the minimum lending requirements, they're going to be unable to access it. And at that point, they're going to disqualify the loan, and the person isn't going to be able to open up a loan under your name. While this isn't going to protect your identity from all the elements that an identity thief could affect, it is going to protect you from having loans and credit cards opened up in your name, which should at least protect you financially from that aspect. Now, if you want to actually do this and go through and freeze your credit, you can either call the credit bureaus at the numbers that are on their website, or you can do it directly through their website once you set up an account with them, which is also free. Some of the information that you're probably going to need to be able to actually do this would be your social security number, your date of birth, your current address. Depending on whether or not you're calling them, you might need some additional information to actually verify that it is you requesting the freeze. If you're in the military, they might need a copy of your military ID. They might need your previous tax return information, or they might need a copy of your current utility bill just to prove that you live where you say you do. And then it should only take a few minutes for that actual credit freeze to go into effect, and then nobody should be able to open up a new line of credit in your name. Now, let's say you want to open up a new credit card, or it's time for you to apply for a mortgage or something like that, where you need your credit to be unfrozen. It's basically going to work exactly in reverse. Again, you can either call them with the number on their website, or you can just go online to unfreeze your account. You'll need the similar type of information that you needed to freeze it in the first place. And then that unfreeze should only take a couple minutes to go into effect. So then if you want to go apply for whatever credit card you're trying to open up, you can apply. Once you're accepted, at that point, then you can go and reinitiate the freeze. So the nice thing about freezes is that they're not permanent. You can unfreeze them and then refreeze them whenever you want. You can do it as many times as you want, and it's all completely free for you to do. Now, a question that often pops up about a credit freeze is, hey, if I'm freezing my credit, is that going to actually hurt my credit score? And the answer to that is no. It's not going to impact your credit score in any way whatsoever. All it's doing is preventing new lines of credit from being opened. So please don't worry that it's going to hurt your credit score in any way. I think this is actually a tool that more people should use, especially if you know that you're in a good situation and you're not going to actually open up any new lines of credit or need somebody else like a lender to have access to your credit report for a good amount of time. Let's say even if it's just a few months. I would highly recommend that more people go and freeze their credit so that way somebody else can't take advantage of them if they do get their identity stolen. Another great ability of the credit freeze is you can actually freeze your child's credit too. And I think this is a great thing for especially very young children, because if their identity is stolen, chances are they're not going to find out that it was stolen until they reach adulthood and it's time for them to apply for a credit card or something, and they get shocked to find out that they actually owe tens of thousands of dollars that somebody took out in their name a decade in the past. So I think if you go and you freeze your child's credit until it's finally time for them to actually open up a credit card, this is a great way to help protect them and their credit score in the future. And now for the cons of credit freeze. Well, I definitely think you should still do it because I think the pros outweigh the cons. It's something you need to be aware of. Probably the first one that's a negative is that it is going to be a little bit inconvenient, and that you have to actually remember to freeze and then unfreeze your credit report as you move throughout your life. But then probably the biggest con that I really want to foot stomp is that it can definitely give you a false sense of security. And the reason I say that is because it does not completely protect your identity. Again, it's only protecting one small element of identity theft, and that is somebody should not, notice I didn't say will not, but should not be able to open up a new line of credit in your name, which is why it's so important to take ownership of making sure that your identity is not stolen. Don't go publish a bunch of personal information online. Make sure you're keeping your social media platforms secure, and then making sure that you're actually doing a routine review of your credit report so that way you know exactly what is on it. And you can help identify if there is a new line of credit that you didn't apply for and somebody else opened it up in your name. The good news is that, again, checking your credit report is completely free. And if you want to know how to do it, check out this video right here. I want to thank you for watching with me. And please remember, from your first penny to your first million, we're here to help.
Awesome. That's basically my overview. I assume most of you do not have your credit locked. I assume most of you, if you're like my dad, doesn't use a password manager. He just writes them down in some book somewhere. And the social engineering portion is pretty applicable for everyone because it surprisingly happens much more commonly, especially to educated, smart people than you think. Because these hackers are very good at manipulating your emotions. Thanks for listening, and hopefully this helps. Bye.